All right, this is an unusual location. I can't really say welcome aboard the Brown Hornet because we're not in it. It's at home in the driveway. But I actually got a comment on one of my videos the other day, and I don't get many comments. Like, I've had about 3 in total over all the time I've been doing it. And I don't make these videos for really anyone else other than myself and my mates who go fishing with me, so we can sort of look back at it, and if you're really bored you can look at it, you know, if you're taking a break from work or whatever. But I was asked to do a video to explain the live bait tank. Now, the live bait tank has had a few iterations on this boat. There was actually where that blue esky is in there. There used to be a boat box when I first rebuilt this boat. So I did everything. I did the floor, the transom, and the stringers, and the keel, and everything on this boat in about 2005. And there was a boat box in there. So this bait tank was plumbed right through into there. But obviously, it got, you know, it started to crack and got a bit ordinary. It used to get in the way a bit. It had merits having it there. It was good storage and good to sit on and good to have a bait tank, sort of in an island in the middle of the boat. But it outstayed its welcome and got ripped out. So I ended up getting this other tank here. Now, it's had a couple of forms too. My mate Joe the Lebo, g'day Joe if you're watching, he was selling all the bits to make these as a package, just as a little side hustle. And that original tank cracked and broke, and you know the UV gets to them, and so that's just a Bunnings tank there. But I'm going to start back here because this is actually plumbed through the floor. So there's a skin fitting. I'll just make sure I can see that you can see. There's a skin fitting there, that silver one. So when I put the new transom in, I wouldn't recommend to anyone drilling holes in your transom. It's not worth it. If water gets in there, you're just going to cause yourself a lot of pain. So, but this was done at the time, and it was done properly. The transom, you know, the whole transom was being rebuilt. They did what's called marine proctology, which is where you get the resin on your finger and, you know, gum up the hole to completely seal it. It's sealed with Sikaflex, and it's been there since 2005, and the transom's solid as a rock. So I'm assuming that I must have done a reasonable job. So that just goes straight through the transom there, and that's where the water comes in. Now, one thing I didn't consider when I came up with this cunning plan is that when the boat's on the plane, the water's down here where my hand is. So I put a secondary thing here, which is this scoop. And this scoop means I can get water into the tank if I'm underway. So if I'm going a long distance out to the fat or something and I want to keep liveys on the go, especially slimies and you know, squid, which tend to die pretty quick, you lower this down to just below the level of the transom, about there, maybe not that low, and then that will scoop water in underway. Now, you would not imagine how much water goes through this when you it's totally surprising. So you only want to have it just below the bottom of the boat. So if you put a ruler there, you don't even want that just projecting a little bit below. Otherwise you just take too much water and you actually burst these fittings off. That's how much comes through. But I don't do much live baiting anymore, so this just stays in this position here, out of the way. But it's there if I need it. I can just lower it down. Okay, I'm doing a video. Say hello. Trent thinks I'm talking to myself, which I often do. So from that skin fitting, under the fuel tank there, I'm not taking the fuel tank out to do this, but then there's a short length of pipe that goes to a through pump. It's a shore flow, and then that goes through this cable here, this hose here, into the tank. Okay, now the tank used to sit a little chest of drawers up sort of about, for God's sake, I prepared this a bit better, up a bit higher. I won't worry about that. Now these are called quick lock. I think they're called quick lock fittings, but if you're a spelling Nazi like me, they spell it Q-W-I-K or something, lock, L-O-K. You'd have to Google it. But all these fittings are from them, and they all fit. And it's got this little sliding sleeve there that then you can undo that, and that's just through a skin fitting there with some Sikaflex into the tank. The scoop, the pickup line, just goes in through just a little brass fitting there. The waste in the tank, there's also a little filter there, so fish don't get stuck in there. And then it's actually the wrong way around. that should be over there, and that should be over there. But then there's an aerator there, so that should be the in, and then for the out, just goes out over the transom into the splash well. So that's pretty well it. It's a pretty simple system. It's probably made more complicated than it needs to be. The other alternative is you can put a bracket on your transom that's got the scoop incorporated in it. You put a bilge pump, just a normal Will or Johnson bilge pump on it, and that will do all in one. But then you've got cables and things going over the back of your transom, and I don't know, it's a bit of a messier solution, I think. But look, this works fine. Now, it was switched to that hole there. I knocked the switch and broke it, so it's actually not wired in at the moment, that switch. So I could switch the bait tank on down here. But the other thing I found is you tend to knock that switch and accidentally turn the tank on and run it dry. And I know those pumps, they say they don't overheat if you run them dry, but they're sitting under a fuel tank. So you'd hope they don't catch on fire or anything, or it could end up pretty bad. So yeah, it's not actually switched in at the moment. As I say, I don't do much live baiting, and look, if they're yellowtail in there, you just grab a bucket of water from over the side every half an hour and chuck it in, and that's perfectly sufficient to keep them alive. But if I end up doing more reef fishing, I'll revive this bait tank and get it all going. Someone else, the other comment, asked for a boat tour. Now, there's not much of a boat tour on this boat because it's only small. It's only 17 footer. So I'll kill that bird with the one stone. That's just where I dump all shit up here. There are little bloody storage areas down there that's got my emergency grab bag and other things in there. There's some old-fashioned Titanic style life jackets up the front. I keep them in there because I don't bother inspecting the canisters on these, and if waterways ever get the shits or whatever they call them now, maritime, come and try and bust me for not having jackets in date. I've technically got life jackets up the front. I don't think they've ever been worn anyway. Don't buy this type of steering wheel, especially if you fish outside, because you hang onto the wheel. That's how you sort of, you know, when you're getting bashed about, and this bent, like the second time I used it, this bent, and it's, oh, see there, it's all loose and buggered. Lowrance, never buy their shit. Fucking terrible. Look, that sounder works, but I had a big run-in with them back in the day. Compass, that compass has been there a long time now and needs replacement. That Lowrance sound, look, it does the job. It's a cheapie, it's a hook to 12 inch. I only really wanted it because it's the bigger, because I've got as you get older your eyesight gets buggered, and yeah, just the 12 inch screen's just a lot better. Storage down there, and on the fishing area down the back you see in all the videos. It's an old 90 horse Johnson 2-stroke. I had issues with it early on. The oil injection crapped out on me, and it was a $4,000 power head rebuild, which didn't impress me much at the time. But I got it converted to premix, and you'll see there's bottles of litre bottles of oil down there. So every 50 litres of fuel that goes in that tank, 1 litre of oil goes in. That way I know it's got, I know it's getting oil the whole time, and I don't have to rely on that dodgy oil injection system that Johnson put on their outboards for a long while there. You may end up sending them broke. I run dual batteries down there. You don't want to get caught miles offshore, and they're just wired into that selector switch there. Fuel water separator, so always a good idea. So I can just, it's this easy to check if there's any water in the fuel. Just undo that. Any water will just drip out the bottom. Check if there's any. I didn't check it that long ago, so I don't imagine there'll be any water in there. Just do that, make sure that's done right up. There's a little bit of water in there, bit of sludge. That's why you run that thing. I'll have to pick that fishing hook up before someone steps on it. What else? I think it's a 70 litre fuel tank down there. Boat comes with cobwebs. Going out fishing tomorrow, that's why I'm in boat mode. Don't really know what else to tell you other than that. So anyway, that's the boat tank, the bait tank, and the Brown Hornet. Well, welcome back. There's one thing I forgot to mention before, and it's important enough that I thought it worthwhile coming back out here and just pointing out. I'm going to try and show you down here. I'm not sure if we can see it or not. I can't see the screen on the camera. But where that through hull fitting comes through the transom, there is a cock, a valve that you can close there. So obviously if you have any hole in your hull below the waterline, you want to have the ability to switch off that at the fitting. So that is a stainless steel fitting with a stainless steel tap on it. That means that worst comes to the worst, and I can reach it from here with a bit of contortionist effort. I can get to that and switch it off. So if this, for example, this hose here developed a leak or broke or something, or one of these hose clamps came loose sort of down under here, and you could potentially have basically a hole in your boat below the waterline, which is obviously far from ideal. So that way, if there's something did happen and water was pissing in this hose, I could just lean over the fuel tank there, turn that tap off, and not sink. I'm not sure if you could see before there, but I've got a 1300, I think it's 1300 gallon per hour bilge pump under there as well, for safety reasons, obviously. And you can take on water. You can take, especially if you're fishing with sea anchors out the back, the waves can hit the back of the stern here and wash in, and water leaks, even though it's only a little bit, will leak in through where the engine controls go in there, and that will it's surprising how much water gets taken on over the course of the day. You can, and the boat does noticeably go down at the stern if you do take on water. So it's just good to have that extra security in there. Now, some other things I forgot before, under the floor here is these compartments. I keep 20 litres of water and spare fuel. 20 litres of fuel. This is their premix 50:1, that one's clearly labelled water. So that was attached to at one point to a deck wash, which I'd need to redo because it was really convenient having that. That's where that pipes and everything go down. That extra fuel here's plumbed through to here to this switch, so a bit rusty, those things, need to replace that. So you can switch the fuel over, but it's pretty rare that I need to do that. I usually carry a jerry can at the front there as well. So alright, that's all the things I've forgotten.